Hi and welcome to my playhouse, and today we are in the very quiet data center because I've been shutting down stuff so to kind of save a little bit on power, because power has become very expensive. Could probably turn a little bit more on, but well, it becomes a sport as well. I had a lot of good suggestions in the last video on how you could save power on your enterprise setup. Some of them was more enterprise than others, but yes, there was some good ones among them. One of them was hard drives, spinning disks. If you for some reason have some spinning disks that you can shut down when they have been idle for some amount of time, and you are okay with waiting for them to spin up to access the data again, that's a good way to save some watts. I would love to do that on my NAS up here, but I have that one connected to my camera feed, so camera thingies are coming in all the time, so they are never idle. That's an issue for me. Another one is, of course, changing to SSDs instead of spinning disks. The good thing about SSDs, besides that they are way faster, is that when they're not doing much, they're not using much power either. But actually, when they're working full throttle, they might use as much power as a spinning disk. Yeah, 5 volts, 1.4 amps. That's almost as much as a spinning disk. So when they're working hard, it's not much of a saving, but when they're not doing anything, it's a big saving because it doesn't have to spin. Another very good suggestion that I hadn't thought of was instead of using SFPs, these things that goes into switches and the back of computers that converts the networking to light, to put it through fiber optic cables. And when you use DAC cables, they don't use the same amount of power as these. It's not as if they use a whole lot of power, these. I checked it, and they're about 0.7 to about a watt each. So in a normal server, if you have 1 or 2 of these, it's not a huge saving. But let's say you have a 48 port switch around the back, then it's actually a lot. And you've probably tried and pull one of these out, and it has been so warm that you could almost not hold it, or maybe you couldn't hold it. So some amount of power goes into these, because otherwise you would be able to hold them and they wouldn't heat up like that. So yeah, DAC cables, and you don't have to mess around with bad fiber optic cables either. So that was a good saving. When you're hunting for the watts, these watt meters or power meters are very handy, so that you can see what is actually using what amount of power. I've showed it in multiple videos how these can show a system how much power it is using, and then you do something on the system and the power goes up a lot. So yeah, these are rather cheap. They might just make themselves back in no time. Another suggestion that I got was to run around the UPS. So in these so troublesome times, if you have stable power, you could bypass the UPS and not use it, because well, UPS uses probably like 40 watts just doing absolutely nothing, losses. But if that isn't the case, there are different UPSs. There are bypass UPSs where you have the battery supply and you have the inverter in the UPS, and then it sniffs on the power coming in, and it sniffs the power coming in, and then if the power goes out, it kicks in the other system. I think that's called a bypass. I'm not totally sure about that, but the other option is a double inverting UPS, and that UPS takes the power that is coming in, converts it down to DC, charges the batteries, and converts it back to AC again. That means that there are losses converting it to DC, and there are losses converting it back to AC. So double inverting UPSs are very good at ensuring a stable power, but they do it at a cost. It's always using power for those losses, converting first one way and then the other way. So power saving optics, glasses on, the standby UPS would be preferable when we're looking at power consumption. Another good suggestion that people was telling me was you should use more solar power. And yep, I have actually run my data center on solar power. I ran into some issues that the load out here, my inverter did not like that very much. All the switch mode power supplies out here and powering that, it meant that first I had a old UPS that was inverting and sending the power out here, and it was doing all kind of weird stuff. So I purchased another inverter, and that one did it for a little bit, and then it stopped working, and I tried to replace the fuses in it, and I blew my hand up. It's fine, but I kind of stopped doing that at that point. But there is a very important thing that you should put in your data center if you're gonna try a solution like that, because it's not very good to power your UPS from solar power, I've heard. Not entirely sure why that is, but it can be recommended to get one of these. Actually also one of these, or these two does about the same thing. They are automatic transfer switches, and the drawings on them, here we have input A, we have input B, and those are two separate inputs, and they go into an output. And here we can prefer if A or B is the one that we want to be the dominant one. And that is ingenious if we're gonna run with solar power, because in that case we want the solar power to be the power that it's gonna be using. So if A is grid power and B is solar power, we could click here and say we want B power. So as soon as there's B power, it will switch and use the B power, and if the B power fails, it will switch over to A power. And this is data center equipment, so it will do that without losing power to the equipment that is connected to it. Very important. This one up here does exactly the same thing. Over here we can select primary on a 1 or 2, and we have those two going in here, the same thing, and to a common load right there. This one has an alert thing that if the power switches, it bugs me. So there's a button that you press, and then that stops. So I haven't connected it at the moment, as it can be seen there's no power on it. But on the back of it here we can see we have the sources A and B coming in right there. So that's the sources. There is room for a grounding connection, and then there's a whole lot of connections that you can connect to this, so it can power 12 servers or something. I'm not entirely sure what the wattage is of this. I would expect it to be here. I'm wrong. They do not brag about that. That's unfortunate, but yeah, it says it over here. It's an automatic transfer switch. It will pick where the good power is, and this one is smart because it shows us how much power we are using. So I should probably at some point replace the one that I have sitting here, but at the moment when I'm not using it, I haven't checked the prices of these. This one I've had sitting around for quite a while without showing it to you, but from new I expect they're like $600–800, so a used one should be considerably cheaper. There are indeed some good ways to save power in the data center. You can go to solar, but at the moment we have a heat wave here in Denmark, and as I'm not running very much in my data center, it's not even a problem. I don't even have the inlet fan on, bringing in cold air to the data center, and still it's nice and chilly in here. I wouldn't call it cold, it's comfortable. I'm in shorts and t-shirt, and it's very nice in here, and the servers are not struggling at all. They aren't doing much because I haven't got much equipment on, and much of that overheating is one server blowing the fans harder to get rid of its heat, and then the other servers aren't getting the cold air that they need, so they will blow their fans a bit harder, and yeah, they help each other heat up. So that's a big saving for me. I don't have to use the fans to bring in cold air. that fan is like 70 watts whenever that runs, so when I don't have to run that, it's a big savings as well. So yeah, I would very much encourage you again to both read and leave your good comments for how to save power in the data center, because I got a lot of these good suggestions from the comments of the last video, and yeah, I could also encourage you to go back and read some of those comments, and maybe you will get some very good ideas. And also to go into the BIOS of your server and change it to prioritize power over performance. That should give you a saving as well. It's not always huge, but it's something, especially if you have a server that runs idle a lot of the time. If you have a server that runs 90% load, there is not much you can do there. It's using the power that it needs to use. But if it can go and idle at some point, well, it can slow down the response time, how fast it kicks in when you need it again, and that will save you a little bit. If I could trouble you for a like for this video and maybe go and visit my Patreon page, I do from time to time put some free posts over there. You might just have a video that I haven't told you about from just a couple of weeks ago that might bring some light to some stuff that I haven't showed yet. So yeah, go check out my Patreon. There's free stuff over there from time to time, and compared to these power prices, it's very affordable. So thank you very much for watching my videos. Do subscribe to my channel so you can see me again, and have a really nice day. Bye bye.